Hi guys, my name is Nicolette Mashile. I'm also known as the Financial Bunny. Welcome to the Financial Bunny TV. Today we're talking all things paying your debt as quickly as you can and what formulas you can actually use. Now remember that none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody who's certified and registered with the FSCA. So we've had a discussion a little bit about the debt snowball, and we've talked about the debt avalanche. Just a quick recap for those who don't remember. The debt avalanche, basically, if you build a tower and you want to start knocking it, we're saying start knocking it by paying off the most expensive debt. And the most expensive debt is the debt that has the highest interest rate. So if you look at all of your debts, say for instance, you've got a credit card where you are being charged 17.5%, you've got a home loan where you're being charged 10%, you've got a car loan where you're being charged 15%, you would ultimately pay off the credit card first, the car, and then the actual home loan. And when we talk about paying off, we don't mean paying a lump sum, but we're saying pay the minimum amount of money that you need to pay on each and every single month. And then where you do have additional amounts of money, pay into that specific debt first, simply because it is a high interest rate and you want to quickly finish off that loan because you are being charged a higher amount for having that debt active, right? And then when it comes to those debt snowball, basically we're using, again, it's a motivational type of debt repayment system where you would start off with the smallest debt, and it snowballs because as you pay off the smallest debt, so let's say for instance, you've got a clothing account where you are owing 4,000 Rand as your total outstanding balance, you've got a credit card where you owe 15,000 Rand, you've got a home loan where you owe 900,000 Rand, you've got a car loan where you owe 300,000 Rand, you would list those according to the smallest outstanding amount, which ultimately will probably be the clothing account, and you pay that off first, because as you knock that out of the way, ultimately you are essentially going to loosen up some money to be able to pay into the other. So starting with the small outstanding balance and getting yourself motivated as you are closing down these types of debts. So that's essentially, again, also it's not about paying it off at once. It's about literally making sure that you're paying the minimum amounts that are outstanding every single month. But when you do have additional income or additional amounts of money, you would pay additionally into the smallest outstanding balance debt, and you would finish that off, and then you would move on to the next one. Today I want to introduce you to Garrett Ganderson's cash flow index method, which basically says that take the outstanding balance and you divide it by the minimum monthly payment that you get, and whatever the score that you are getting will either render your loan efficient or non-efficient. And all of the non-efficient loans need to be paid off as quickly as possible. Why? Because they take a big chunk of your income. So basically you're using a very big portion of your income servicing those loans, and it will serve you better if you pay them off as quickly as possible, right? Again, not a big chunk. If you do have a big chunk though, however, great, settle those loans. But if they are inefficient loans that you don't have a big chunk for, you can pay them off with additional amounts of money. So this is how you decide which debt to tackle off first. Very, very important, because cash flow is one of the most important aspects of your actual budget. Why? There are various reasons as to why. First and foremost, for a lot of us, when we don't feel like we're choking on our budgets, it makes us feel emotionally a little bit better. Being able to service all of your debts month to month without feeling pressure is actually a good thing for your mental state. So paying off those inefficient loans is a way to also regain your mental health. The second reason is you are basically going to be paying off the high interest loans off first, because we know most of the time it's either the high interest rate, it's either the loan period that then manipulates how much you end up paying overall. So any of those numbers, the period that you're paying, the amount that you've borrowed, or the interest rate gets changed, it means that it changes how much you're going to pay at the end of the day. So the formula, again, to that cash flow index is the outstanding balance, the total outstanding balance, divided by the monthly amount that you pay every single month. Now, the reason why I emphasize on this specific way of calculating which debt to tackle off first, so that you can ultimately reach a space of reducing your debt to eliminating your debt, is because we also, or recently I posted a video about leveraging of credit or using debt to be able to build your wealth. It's important that while you are doing this, you are still doing it in a very efficient way and in a smart way. It does not make sense for you to be taking up high interest rate loans or inefficient loans thinking they will assist you in building wealth, because ultimately, again, they're going to take a big chunk of your cash flow. So it's important to make sure that even when you are going to be leveraging credit and using debt to build your wealth, you do need to find the most efficient loans. You will see as we're doing the examples that generally for most people, their home loan is an efficient loan. And that ultimately starts to give you the idea of why banks are okay with people leveraging a credit facility like a home loan to buy an asset like a house, because generally it is an appreciating asset. So you will start to understand. So even when you are going to buy non-property assets, so you're not going to buy a house, but you want to use, for instance, a personal loan, a credit card, you still need to make sure that that loan is efficient. So when you are sitting there with a bank consultant and they've given you a loan proposal, a grant, or an offer, calculate whether or not that loan is going to be an efficient loan or non-efficient loan. I always say to people, do this especially for business loans, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where the business now has to work extra hard just to make that payment every single month, and it ends up not being worth it at all, right? So how do you determine whether or not a loan is efficient or non-efficient? As I said, I'm going to show you two examples on the screen, and the two examples I want to use are your home loan, and I'm going to use a car loan. Now, these are real examples of my own debt situation, right? So I've got a home loan where I'm owing 732,939, but I'm paying 5,849 every single month on that loan. Then I have a car loan, on the other hand, where there is an outstanding balance of 540. We'll talk about it a bit later as to why it looks like this. But for the purpose of this video, it's 554,934, and I am paying 11,682,000 Rand on that specific car, right? Now, if you do the mathematics on both of these loans, as per the formula of the cash flow index, you will see that the equation totals on the home loan to 125, whereas on the car loan, it totals to 47. So both of them are, one is above 100 and one is below 50. And what the cash flow index formula tells us is that any loan that is above 100 is an efficient loan, and any loan that is below 50 is an inefficient loan. So if I was to make a decision and I was to maybe get a cash windfall from either a bonus or from a tax refund, or I get an additional income stream and I've got additional funds, if there is a loan that I should expeditiously pay off as quickly as possible, it is the car loan, because you can already see it's taking 11,000 Rand every single month from my bank account. So it's very important for you to understand this, because this is what you are going to ultimately use to be able to choose which debt to pay off as quickly as possible. There are obviously other benefits into making sure that you have a much higher cash flow. And when we talk about cash flow, we talk about positive cash flow. So this is your disposable income that we want you to have. Here's another thought that I want to leave you with. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a coaching session with one of my clients. And it's so funny because she says to me, I've paid off everything. So this is like a week after payday. I've paid off everything, and I have a disposable income of 4,000 Rand. And I had to break her bubble or bust her bubble and say, you don't. The only way you know when you actually have a disposable income or a surplus is at the end of the month. Because remember, one of the biggest parts of our expenses that most of us do not account for are our living expenses. And you still have 3 weeks of living that needs to happen. So it's important to remember that when you are doing your budgeting and you are doing your cash flow positive equations, know that you are only cash flow positive at the end of the month, just before your next income actually gets into your bank account. I will see you guys on the next one. I'm so excited. Let's get learning.